could possibly imagine about things of which you cannot dream. How many times have I told you that you have to be what? What? Twice as good as them to get half of what they have, and sometimes even that isn't enough. These are the words that my mom said to me on my first day of year 6. Now that I look back on it, these are some pretty jarring things to say to a 12-year-old, but the reality of the matter is that these are words that almost every black child has heard at some point in their lives. When I think of the theme, The Day After Tomorrow, I think of a day when young people who look just like me are allowed to have the same opportunities and afforded the same rights and privileges as their non-black counterparts. A day when we do not have to put such a heavy weight on the backs of children. I believe that the gift of humanity on an individual level is our ability to mold into whatever shape, size, or texture we see fit. But how can we build this ideal society? A world where we do not have to accept and normalize such strange occurrences and life experiences. Let's start with acknowledging and dismantling these systems of oppression and privilege. This means having those difficult conversations and taking concrete actions to address systemic racism, ableism, sexism, and all other forms of discrimination. But we have to understand and we have to realize what being privileged means in this context. And I know you're going to ask me, well, Nawale, how do I know if I'm privileged? See, this is where my Gen Z-ness comes into play. And we have this little game called Put a Finger Down. Do you guys know it? Yeah. Could you guys put up all your fingers for me? Very important. So, put a finger down if people have ever been surprised that you speak so well. Put a finger down if somebody has ever said, oh, I'm almost your color in the summertime. Put a finger down if you've ever been accused of not being able to afford something expensive. Put a finger down if you've ever been called a slur. Put a finger down if you've ever been denied an opportunity you know that you are more than qualified for. Put a finger down if you've ever had to teach your child how not to get killed by the police. Exactly. For the very fact that you have some fingers left shows that you have some privilege. Now, we need to acknowledge and understand our privilege, fully understand. And this may sound like something that's completely obvious, but it's not always easy to recognize the ways in which we benefit from systems of oppression. We may think of ourselves as good people who treat everyone equally, but that's not enough. We need to actively seek out information and diverse perspectives. We need to challenge our assumptions and the ways in which our privilege operates. We need to listen to marginalized voices, read diverse literature, and educate ourselves on the history and impacts of systemic oppression. We need to use our privilege to amplify the voices of the marginalized and support their struggles for justice. Privilege is not inherently bad, but it becomes a problem when it is used to maintain the status quo and silence dissent. We need to use our privilege to create a space for marginalized voices and to amplify their messages yet again. We need to support their activism, and this means recognizing when we need to take a step back and listen, when we need to use our voices as a resource to support the cause. Oppression is a heavy burden that weighs on us all. It's the feeling of being unseen, unheard, and undervalued. It's the fear of violence, discrimination, and injustice. It's the knowledge that the systems and structures that govern our lives were not built for us. That we are constantly fighting to be seen as fully human. But the challenges of dismantling systems of oppression should not be overwhelming. It requires us to work together, to educate ourselves and others, and to take action to transform systems that perpetuate inequality and injustice. Those who are most impacted by the oppression should be at the center of our efforts to dismantle it. We need to listen to their stories, experiences, and perspectives. Make sure their voices are heard and amplified. Yes, amplified is a word I will repeat throughout this speech because it's something that I believe is cardinal to the fight against systemic oppression. We also need to support their leadership and activism and follow their lead in the struggle for justice. We need to challenge and change the systems that perpetuate oppression, including laws and policies, as well as practices that discriminate against certain groups. This means advocating for policies that promote equality, equity, justice, such as anti-discrimination laws and criminal justice reforms. This also means challenging the status quo and pushing for radical change. Dismantling systems of oppression requires us to work together across lines of difference. We need to build coalitions and solidarity across social identities and movements. Recognizing that our struggles for justice are interconnected. This means building alliances between racial justice, gender justice, and environmental justice, because at the end of the day, we're all connected. It also means recognizing and addressing the ways in which different forms of oppression intersect and reinforce each other. Before I conclude my talk, I'd like to focus on the words that inspired me to give this talk in the first place. And they're words from a person that my mother introduced me to at a very young age through a YouTube video. Her name is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and she says, "The stories we tell about people and groups have a profound impact on their lives. These stories of oppression and inequality that we have inherited are incomplete and damaging. It's up to us to tell new stories that honor the full humanity and dignity of all people." Again, before I end my talk, I just want to talk about how as a society, we're constantly focusing on the idea that other people need to change and the idea that in order for change to happen, you need to change the way that other people think. But I'd like us to take a minute and reflect inwards. As young people, as youth, we need to understand and accept the fact that if we do want change, that change needs to happen within ourselves first. We need to become the people that we wanted to see around us as children. We need to become the adults that the future generation needs. And while we reflect on those words, I would like to focus and I would like to shed a spotlight on some of the adults in my life who have inspired me to become the person that I am today and who have inspired me to give this talk to you as well. I would first like to say that I'm grateful to my uncle for teaching me about systemic oppression and the importance of standing up for the marginalized. I'm grateful to my mother for modeling empathy, compassion, and also for teaching me the value of listening to diverse perspectives. I'm grateful to my sisters for challenging my assumptions and pushing me to be a better ally. Finally, I'm grateful to my aunt for her unwavering commitment to social justice and for her example as an amazing example of using your privilege for the ultimate good and using your privilege for the greater good as well. Without these people, I would not be the person I am today, and I would not be able to share this message with you. So let us all commit to acknowledging and using our privilege for a greater good. Thank you.